It's time to recap my March reads as well as do a quick flip through to show you my quarter one reading stats. So stay tuned. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you that may be new, welcome. My name is Tracy and I'm a girl with plans. So yes, we are going to be doing a quick flip through of my reading journal so you guys can kind of see my stats. But I think the reason why I'm really doing this is we have just come upon the end of the first quarter and there are some spreads in here that I created thinking I would love as far as some of the stat tracking that I really don't like. And I feel like I would just share that with you guys. All right, so this is just a reference page of how I rate some of my books. I really haven't been using this as much. I kind of know how I rate it and everything, but I guess for future Tracy, this is like a good idea. And then this is my reading goal. So my reading goal is 75 books. What I did is I drew squares for the 75 and then I color them in, but I have this key here. And what I really wanted to do was not just track my my physical books, audiobooks, and ebooks. I wanted to also say whether or not they were books that I borrowed or books that I purchased or what have you. So that way I can kind of see were these free books or did I spend money on them type thing. And if it was a Kindle Unlimited ebook or if it was an audiobook from Spotify or Audible where you have to do those membership services, I count that as a paid book because I am paying for the service. So that does go under the ones with the dollar signs. But here we go here. The overwhelming majority are my Kindle Unlimited books. Those are those blues. So obviously I am using that pretty regularly. And then the tan color is actual audiobooks that came through paid subscriptions. So typically Audible, although I did have a Spotify account for a hot minute. And then the really light tan, those are ebooks that I borrowed either from the Libby app or from my library's Hoopla app. I've actually gotten a couple from Hoopla. I've only done 3, but I think 2 of them came from Hoopla. And then we have, I don't have any of the freebies yet. Those are like the ones that sometimes you can get like your first reads of the month if you have a Prime account. So you get those free, or sometimes they're just free ebooks that are available on Kindle. I don't have any of those yet. Or did I? No. And then I have the books, the physical copy of books that I pay for. I had 3 of those so far. So I am reading physical books. I actually need to check those off now. 2 of those are from the Throne of Glass series. And then one of them is another one that I just read this month, a different one. We'll talk about that during the reading recap. Read from 5 different genres. We'll get to that in a minute because I'm not sure. I might have done that yet. Complete 4 readathons. I've actually done 2. February and March. I have not finished a series yet. I should soon. Okay, and then here's my annual stats page. I love this. At the time of filming, I'm not 100% sure if I would of like any categories I can think of adding at the moment. I will say the spice rating. I don't really know how to do average spice ratings because there are some that I haven't even been rating that. But if I did, it's still kind of harder to compute than star ratings because some things will get a 0 or you just don't even measure it at all. So that might not to be a future category. When I say future, I mean 2026. But everything else I do kind of like. I have my totals books finished, physical, ebook, audio, total pages, and then the length of any audiobooks, average star rating, any books that I DNF'd. And when I say incomplete, those are books usually that I start in one month and then I'll finish in the following month or at some point in the future. So for March, being that I'm combining this with my March reading recap, I did finish 6 books, which was the same as February. One of them was a physical book. 3 of them were ebooks. However, one of those ebooks I own a physical copy of. I just was able to get it from my library as an ebook, and I prefer to read on my Kindle if at all possible. And then I listened to 2 audiobooks. So even though I had 4 physical books, it was only 1,754 pages. These were a lot shorter than my usual books. Most of them were under 400 pages. They were really close to 400 pages, which was very frustrating for my readathon because you got more points if they reached the 400 pages, and they were like in the 390 page mark. There was like 2 or 3 books that were like that. So frustrating. But I did listen to 16.47 hours of audio. All of these stats were computed on Storygraph. If you do not have the Storygraph app, I highly recommend it. I enjoy it so much better than the other reading apps. Now, you do have to go in and log it. It doesn't talk to my Kindle like Goodreads does. Like Goodreads can see the book that I'm reading just because it talks to the Kindle, but this one you have to go in, but it does so many cool stats and graphics to kind of show it. So if you're someone like me that kind of nerds out over reading stats, then definitely try Storygraph app. That's where it kind of computed all of this and even that for me. This is one of the pages I will not, I don't even know if I'm going to be continuing that this year. So it's the days read. Now I kind of keep track of my days read on my actual calendar because I keep track of the books I read and what dates I read them. So this is very duplicative. I mean, it is nice to see it all in one place. So my thought was I would amp it up by tracking how many minutes or hours I read a book. And as you can see, I kind of kept with it here. And then I started falling off in February. I know some of these are more estimates than anything else. And then in March, at this point, the the lines means I read, but I don't know how long I read. So there are a lot of those. At this point, I'm probably not going to keep up with this. And I can tell you this is probably not going to make an appearance in 2025 in any way, shape, or form. It's just a lot. It's a lot because you have to come into the reading journal a lot more often to fill this out, unless it's something that you're tracking on your phone or something like that. And then here's my bookshelf. So you can kind of see a visual of the genres that I'm reading. So just by looking at the colors, 1, 2, 3, 4, I have read my 5 genres, y'all, or have I? So I've read romantasy, dark academia. Do we want to count that as a genre? Fantasy. Those are usually the books that might have a romance element, but it's more strictly fantasy than romantasy. This one, oh, Rebel Witch. I didn't know how to categorize that one. I still don't know how to categorize that one. That's not a fantasy. They have witches in it, but that's like really the only like supernatural creature. So how would you guys, if you've read Rebel Witch, how would you categorize that one? And then, let's see, a suspense thriller and mystery. So I will say I'm at least at 4. I'm at least at 4 different genres. That's pretty good this early in the year. So there we go there. I do like this, and I do like tracking it by genre. It's just like a quick overall view. Like I said, I'm kind of surprised at how colorful it is because I usually am a fantasy/romantasy reader. And then here is my reads. I will say this I absolutely love because I refer to this page as I'm filling out this page and this page. I'll go back and I'll count. Okay, so I start here. That's book 12. So I use this for reference for everything. So I'm actually thinking this one I might want to move up in my journal in future years just because this is the most used spread for reference when it comes to filling out my other spreads. I still need to get one book cover here. And then my book battle. So now that we are done with the first quarter, I had a really good reads for the first quarter. All of these were 5-star books, y'all. I have 3 5-star books already. I have not printed out all the book covers yet to put on my 5-star list. But Heavenly Bodies was the top read for January. Reign of Shadows and Endings was the top read for February. And Blood and Steel was the top read for March. And Reign of Shadows and Endings, it did overtake Blood and Steel for me. It was kind of close. But that one I just couldn't stop thinking about. I just had so much of a connection with those characters in that first book. I will say I started losing some of the connection as the series goes on. But it's still there. It's still like a 4+ star series. But that was just a 5-star for me all the way. And I just couldn't stop thinking about it. So it was an easy win. So like right now I have Blood and Steel here. So I need to add the other 2 because they were 5-star reads over here. And I have not DNF'd anything. I have soft DNF'd some stuff, but the plan is to come back to those. And then here's my series tracker. And unfortunately, I had picked a color that I was going to use for 2025. And yeah, the cap came off in the bag and it dried out. So I had to switch colors. So yeah, now I'm using a different color. Let me write, can't really read the number. So that's what the key is. The key kind of tells me what the number is of the marker. So you can kind of see I'm making some progress on some of these. Like Throne of Glass, I just started reading this year. The Legacy series is a new one. I need to add the Legends of Thesmar series on here because that one, I read the first book. I know, like I said, that was a 5-star book. That was Blood and Steel. But yeah, I'm kind of slowly making my way through series. Unfortunately, Zodiac Academy, I think that number 9 is going to stay blank. I have absolutely no interest in reading that book, and I own the audio, and I have no interest in listening to it either. So we'll see. But right now, I have, like, that would be an easy series to complete. And I mean, I've read 8, and I cannot get myself to read the 9th one. I have read 4 books that are on my physical bookshelf. Go me. Yay. I haven't really made it to a lot of these yet. For Carissa Broadbent, these I actually read, I think I might have read them both last year because I set up this journal in like November, December. But yeah, there we go. And then here's some book clubs. I need to fill it out for March. For March, I did not... It's like Onyx Storm, I had read that in January, so I didn't read that in February. But March, I think they also had done some books that I had already read. And then the book club with Joshi Curran, I didn't love the book that they chose, so I chose not to read that one. Here is my A to Z and my book bingo. These, I do not like make it a point to hit these when I'm doing my reading. So I just read a book and see if it fills in the space. What I learned to do here for book bingo is pencil in the books that fill that slot. So right now I am almost like I'm 1 away from doing a bingo here, but the goal is to black out the board. So the rest of the reason why I pencil it in, because some of these can go into other slots. So if I read a book like this month that'll only fit into one of these, then I can move one of the other books around. So this is so I can have some wiggle room to move things around. I don't know if I'm going to keep up with book bingo and future reading journals because like I said, I'm not really using it to guide my reading. I'm not using this to guide my reading either, but this is easier and it's a little bit more fun. So I think I'll stick with this. This I'm unsure about. I think there's some other challenges that I might prefer. So yeah. So here's a year of Goober. I did do March. I just need to print the cover out. I changed the prompt because there were 2 prompt options and I had already like pre-chosen one prompt and then I decided to switch it to a cover change because it fit the Throne of Glass series. Make things, work easier, not harder. And then Buzzword, I am on top of that one. And then I need to read something in April. I think I'm gonna read 6 of Crows to fill that one. I've started that book. I cannot get into it, y'all. This is such a cool idea and I just cannot keep up with it. So I wanted to add all of the places that like I visit. But some of these places, like some of these books have multiple places. I'm like, I'm not adding all that. So I was gonna like mainly add the main place, like mostly fantasy. And I forget. So this isn't I've read 20 books, so obviously this is not everything. I think a couple of the books are part of the same series, though. So I don't know. I might go back and fill some of this in, but this is probably only going to live in this journal and not go to future journals. I do like the readathons one, though. This is where I can just write the readathons because the readathons are going to be in my monthly sections or in my my challenge book. So I like to have them here just so I can see it. So with that said, that is kind of my stats wrap up for the first quarter. Now we are going to go to my March. I have not kept up with this either. So I have finished Finley Donovan. I don't know exactly when I finished it, but I need to go ahead and finish marking some of these. I know I didn't have the strongest end to March, but I did read some of those days that week. And I did read everything that I anticipated on reading for all of my challenges and readathons. For new releases, Lady of the Lake actually comes out in April. For some reason, I thought it was March, but it comes out in April, but I did read Finley Donovan. And then here is my Real-mathon. So I kind of went over this. I was Team Stags. I went over this during the March setup. So what I did is I printed everything out here. So basically, you pick a team, and points get added to that team, or you can actually earn points to take away from another team. So I put all the prompts down, and then I created these little tables so I can put my book here, and then I can figure out how many points I get for the prompts. So I was just kind of like looking at the prompts to figure out where I can earn the most points per book, and most of them were points for my team versus attack points. So like I said, I've got all 6 of the books that I had here. And I just kind of put all the points on here sloppily. But this is going to stay here for future reference, so I'm not going to take anything away. This is what I was saying. I was at like 390 some pages for at least 2 or 3 books, and I only got 20 points. However, if I would have been at 400 pages, I would have got 20 more points for that. That's so, like, that was so discouraging. So what I did is I added up all my points, and I had 353 points total that were positive points and 34 attack points. Because sometimes when I was doing the attack points, some things could be positive only. I think it was the page count is positive only, and something else was positive only. So yeah, that kind of impacted that. But what I'm going to do, and the reason why there's blank space here, is I'm going to put the book covers of the books I read and then put the points underneath of that. So I'm going to do that later. It's just, I do have a Canon Ivy small printable small printer. However, it's just the sticker paper is not very cheap. So I use that for printing photos for memory keepers. And I like to print my book covers just on regular printer paper. So I need to wait until I got to print some more, and then I'll do that. And then here are my stats. I am loving the visual of the pie charts. I saw so many other people do that, and I just really like this added visual. So like I did it for February, but I did not do it for January. And like this was January, and I just like this so much better than this. Even though my coloring is a little janky, I still like just the visual of this. So I do pages, and like again, all of this came from Storygraph. So I did color it in. Some people will print them out from Storygraph and just paste them, but I just colored them in. So my pie charts is, like I said, pages, the genre, the source of the book, so ebook, audio, or physical. I don't get into library here. This is just the general. And then the star rating, and I put my average there. And then here is just kind of a summary of some things that were on the other page, but I did include the average time to finish my book. And again, this is from Storygraph. It was 6 days. And again, that is dependent upon you entering the start and the finish date on Storygraph. And then for the month of March, I started 2 new series, and I was continuing on with 3 series, and I didn't finish any. And then for duologies, I finished 1 duology, and I didn't read any standalones. And then this page is kind of another wrap up. I might add some more stuff here. I'm kind of trying to still figure out what to do. So in February, I put kind of my finishing stats and stuff for the Romanacy-thon. Like whatever book you picked, chose your dress color and stuff like that. So that's what I used that for. And in January, I used the book covers to put some stuff down. So we'll see. I still did my favorite book, which was Blood and Steel. My most fun book, which is most fun even a term? Funnest, I don't know, was Finley Donovan's newest one. And then most disappointing was Reckless. I'll chat about these in a minute. I didn't purchase anything. The longest book was Blood and Steel, which wasn't that long, by the way. It was like over 500 pages though. The shortest was Lovely Bad Things. I did the audio version of that, but then I just looked at how many pages it was to see that. And then I'm keeping track of the challenges completed and any book club reads. And that brings us here. Now, don't look too much into some of this if you don't want to be spoiled. I still need to add some stickers and stuff here, but I'll do that later. So like I said, Blood and Steel was my 5-star read. I loved it. It's the Legends of Thesmar series. It is available on Kindle Unlimited. I think it's only available on Kindle Unlimited, meaning I don't have access to it from my library or anything like that. So that is another reason why I actually decided to renew Kindle Unlimited, because I had an annual subscription. It was like a gift subscription. And that ran out, and I was debating on whether or not to do Kindle Unlimited or not. And I'm like, I really need to finish or at least read the second book in the series. So I did it. This is a great, great series. It's 4 books total. All 4 books have been released. I would totally reread it, which is why it is a 5-star read for me. It just has a very strong female main character. It is a romantasy, so there is a love interest in it. However, the romance did not overtake any part of the story. It did not like change the female's actions or decision making or anything like that, which a lot of romantasies, the romance definitely impacts their decision making, and this one it did not. She's such a strong female main character, so strong. So basically in this world, females are not allowed to wield blades, and they're not allowed to like be warriors, and that is her ultimate dream, is to be a warrior. When she was a child, she was given her age of death, and she only has 3 years left to live. So like this is really a big thing to her, and it's kind of her journey toward that. Of course, like I said, with some romance thrown in. I'm just going to read this quote that I got from this book because it just kind of sums up everything. It says, "No woman is responsible for the weak acts of a man who has had, who's had his masculinity so easily threatened." So yes, that is just, it's just such a strong book. Highly recommend it. Like I said, it is Kindle Unlimited. And then the next book I read is Reckless. So I do own this book, sadly, because I loved Powerless. Loved Powerless. It's a YA fantasy romance. It's a YA romantasy, I guess. It didn't read super young, but you can definitely tell it was YA. A lot of people compared Powerless to The Hunger Games because it had that trials, but I feel like any book with trials, they compared to The Hunger Games, but it did take place like in a wooded area too, so maybe that is why. But I loved that one. Almost hated this one. I say almost because I gave it 2.5 stars. It just was super repetitive. It was like 300 and some pages, 390 pages. There we go again. In the 390s, so close to 400. But it was 390 pages, but it just felt so long because it was repetitive. I felt like the plot was not progressing. I felt like things were dragged out longer than they needed to be. Where I felt like I had some attachment to the characters in the first book, it was all gone in this book. I don't like either of the characters, the main characters. However, the ending was enough to probably have me reading the 3rd and final book, which I believe comes out this month, but I'm probably not going to be rushing to read it, and I'm not going to buy it. So I will have only the 2 books in the novella, and I will not be buying the 3rd book, even if it's great. Just because now like the 2nd book has ruined the entire series for me as far as wanting to own it. You may differ. Some people actually like the 2nd book more than the 1st book. Yeah, I just did not love it at all. I felt like it was a filler book. It was kind of, there was another series I think I read this year. That book just came out too. Or it must have been last year. That I also had the same problem with. Like the first book was really good. It ended on a really good cliffhanger. And then the 2nd book just felt like a filler book. It felt like maybe the author only wanted to their intention was only to do 2 books, but then because of their success, they decided to drag it out. I don't know. That's just an assumption, but that's what it felt like to me. I had to get this one from the library, the ebook version, because I said I own the physical, but I really wanted to read the ebook version, so I had to get it from the library because it is not on Kindle Unlimited. The next book was Lovely Bad Things. So I only read this book. I actually did the audio version because it fulfilled a prompt. So the prompt for the buzzword reading challenge was the word things. And this was pretty obvious. I had no clue what this was about. I actually thought this was a fantasy book. It's not. It is a like dark thriller with some romance elements in it. It is very dark. It has like some like sacrificing type cult type stuff going on in it. But it was still interesting to listen to. The audio, there are dual narrators, which makes it a lot easier to follow. And it was pretty short. It was 7 hours and 17 minutes, so it wasn't that long. I would say it kind of had like an updated, sexier Silence of the Lambs type vibes. So yeah, there we go. You can see I haven't finished all of my reviews yet either. And then Crown of Midnight, that's the second book in the Throne of Glass series. 4 stars, probably needs to be 4.5 stars now that I think about it after like sitting on it for a little bit. I do own this book. I did read the physical copy of this book because the ebooks are just never available. It's a very long wait at any library. So I read the physical book of this. I just love this series. Again, it is a female main character that is just strong, independent, and she just has a really good story. It's really, really interesting. I think this one would consider it more of a fantasy book. Again, there might be some romance in it, but it's really about the main character and her journey. But there are love interests. So I think it is more, at least right now, more fantasy than romantic-y. Which is why on my bookshelf, I have The Crown of Midnight listed as a fantasy, where I did Throne of Glass for some reason as romantic. I still think it might be fantasy. Let me know your thoughts on that. But this is a great series. This is Sarah J. Maas. I believe it's like 2015-ish or so. So it was sometime before her biggest hits have come out. But I actually like this a lot more. I just feel like it's an easier read. It's just fun. I love all the characters. I hate the ones you're not supposed to like. But yeah, it's super interesting. And then the next book I read is Wrath of the Damned. This was the duology. This was the second book in the duology. I'm not sure of the duology name. But the first book was Nectar of the Wicked. Again, see, 396 pages. So close to the 400. This was more of a dark romantasy. And I gave it 3 stars. That might be being generous because I just wanted to get through this book. It was like, when is it going to be over with? I just need to know what happens so I can wrap it up and be done with it. This was heavier on the romance and the plot. At least I felt like it was. The first book ended on such a kind of interesting cliffhanger type thing that I wanted to see it through. And it just didn't have that type of excitement to it. So yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. I think I gave the first one 4 stars. And even thinking about the first book, that was probably a little bit of a too high of a rating. But sometimes my ratings are based on what I've read that month and comparing them to other books. And like I said, I read Crowns of Midnight before. This one wasn't like as disappointing as Reckless, but it was close. And then Finley Donovan, that I did rate 4 stars. I think I've rated every Finley Donovan book 4 stars. It's just fun, y'all. And I listened to this on audio. I will only listen to it on audio because I love the narrator. I love the voices. I just love it. And I love all the characters for the Finley Donovan series. I think this might be book 5 now. This is Finley Donovan Digs Her Own Grave. If you're not familiar with the series, if you're familiar at all with the Janet Ivanovich books, like One for the Money, Two for the Show type things, this is kind of the same vibes, where there may be like 20 books to the series, and it's possible it could have that many because it's not necessarily like a continuing plot line. You just have the same characters, and like each book they're involved in something else that is kind of hilarious and mysterious, like you're trying to solve something going on there. It's hard to explain without giving anything away, but I do think you need to read the previous books because that's the only way you're really going to know who the characters are, because there are a lot of side characters that I feel like you need to know their relationships with the main characters to kind of get the vibes. But it's such a fun read. It is considered like a mystery, but it's definitely like that humorous chick lit type mystery. So definitely fun, definitely a book. If you're reading like certain types of genres, this would be like a good palate cleansing type of book. I highly recommend the audio though. Highly recommend the audio. It's just a really good audio book. I was like laughing out loud while I was listening to it at work. Yeah, it was definitely one of those audio books that you can listen to at work because it's not super hard to follow. Like I cannot listen to a lot of fantasy books because I find that I have to give it my full attention. And sometimes that's not possible with audiobooks, but with Finley Donovan, I can definitely do the audio because I can give it like 95% of my attention and still know what's going on. So there we go. I've already done a video showing my setup for April. But that is my kind of first quarter update plus my March read and recap. I hope you enjoyed this video. I wasn't sure if I was going to film it or not, but I know some people follow me because of my reading journal content. So I'm like, I just want to go ahead and post it just in case you guys wanted to like hear about some of my recent reads or anything like that. So with that said, if you guys enjoyed this video, please press that like button. And if you have yet to subscribe, I hope you would also consider subscribing to my channel. Now, that is all I have for now. I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, or night. Until next time, bye.